email, that checks out. Yeah, Secret Service, the FBI, the DEA being involved, why this plane found something out and it cost him his life. One of the donors to Turning Point USA was telling him it would be very bad for my brand. And that really stuck with me. That one of the donors said, it would be very bad for your brand for you to not marry a black guy from the projects or something like that.
That's right.
Let's just say this. Candace Owens' husband filing for divorce didn't exactly come out of nowhere. The timing connects a little too perfectly with what she's been posting lately, especially the parts where she claimed that powerful international agencies were plotting against her. And here's where it gets intense. She's dropping names, showing alleged receipts, and claiming she has enough proof to shake entire governments if anything ever happens to her. But that's not even the wildest part. Before news of the divorce even broke, Candace claimed she was warned by a high-level insider from France who allegedly told her that top political figures had ordered a secret operation to silence her. She says the source gave her documents, shared identities, and even revealed that one of the operatives supposedly had connections to elite foreign military units, making this story sound like something straight out of a spy thriller. And just when people thought she might be overreacting, things escalated again. A so-called whistleblower emailed her new leaks that allegedly linked several major U.S. agencies to this mysterious plot connected to Charlie Kirk's passing. Candace said she read it word for word, and what she claimed it contained left everyone completely speechless. Candace has been saying that Charlie uncovered something huge, and it ended up costing him his life in a way that still raises serious questions. But before diving into that mystery, let's talk about the divorce, because George Farmer's timing couldn't look more suspicious. Instead of supporting his wife through one of the most chaotic weeks of her entire career, he's allegedly stepping back.
Why would you allow your wife to be put in that position? I would never put my wife in that position, not for social media, not for money, not for anything.
Has really plateaued and sort of reached their peak. I think a lot of influencers in the US are actually on a journey of self-discovery.
Quietly filing paperwork while conservative media outlets confirm the separation behind the scenes. And honestly, if you've ever looked into how their relationship began, the whirlwind engagement, the odd emotional tension, none of this feels that surprising. People online haven't forgotten that old clip where Candace claimed Charlie Kirk once told her not to marry George because certain donors supposedly thought it would hurt her public image. Well, that moment hits completely different now. But here's the thing. The divorce isn't even the most explosive issue on her plate, because while all this chaos is unfolding, Candace is also being targeted by people within her own circle. At a major Turning Point event, Pastor John Aku reportedly called her evil, accused her of having a dark spirit, and even told George to ask her to stop speaking altogether. Witnesses said the entire event felt tense, not about faith, but about hostility directed straight at her. Fans flooded social media with posts like, "Pray for Candace Owens, they're trying to silence her, and no one in mainstream media will touch the story." And while it might sound extreme, things started getting even stranger when leaks began surfacing. Not long after Candace exposed the alleged international allegations, Project Veritas dropped supposed messages that showed Mary Barr, daughter of a well-known political figure, discussing a plan to blackmail Candace and damage her name before she could respond publicly. One of the messages allegedly said, "You need to blackmail her fast." Another reportedly said, "Destroy her reputation before she gets to us." While the people involved have denied the messages are real, none of those named have actually taken legal action to dispute it. And that silence alone has fans asking serious questions. And just as everyone was still catching their breath,
It happens to me, blame the Zionists. Like 1000% blame the Zionists.
Important to share that information, as Kanye sent me all of the messages, people who were threatening him, I have them all, to information share with Max Blumenthal, with people, people all over the place. You were born a man and you will die a man. That's the point I'm making. So give us a sample. I'll send my doctors to take your blood, figure it out real quick. I will see you in court.
Candace lit up social media again, saying that if anything ever happens to her, she knows exactly who's behind it. When you look at the bigger picture, it's wild. There's an alleged whistleblower email naming U.S. agents, claims that the French government approved an attack, rumors of international involvement, supposed Department of Justice leaks, a pastor calling her demonic, and now her husband walking away. This isn't just some internet feud. It feels like pressure closing in from every possible direction at once. But what really shocked people was when Candace suddenly brought Kanye into the conversation. She said that gave her a full package of messages and warnings, basically a digital insurance policy to be exposed if anything ever happened to her. And honestly, when someone like Kanye, a man who's constantly claiming the industry is out to bury him, tells you to keep evidence for your safety, it says a lot about the kind of circles Candace has been navigating. And just as things couldn't get more chaotic, she reignited another controversy, this time with France's First Lady, Brigitte Macron. Around the same time this lawsuit surfaced, Candace responded with bold words telling her they'd see each other in court and standing by her statements. That instantly set off another international firestorm. So think about this timeline. She accuses Brigitte of hiding something personal, gets sued, fires back even harder. Then an alleged French insider claims she was targeted. Her husband files for divorce. A pastor calls her out in public. A supposed DOJ leak surfaces. And then she claims foreign groups want her gone, all while connecting it to Charlie Kirk's mysterious passing. This isn't normal political chaos. It feels like something much deeper. Candace insists that Charlie's passing wasn't random and that the same powerful figures she says are after her were somehow tied to what happened to him.
It's Erica Kirk, his wife. I mean, you have to be cruel and demonic to insinuate the things that she has insinuated over the past several weeks. She's evil. At some point, her husband is gonna have to walk into that podcast room and start unplugging cords. I mean, by now I would have already done it if it was my wife.
That's the one detail she refuses to let go of. The link between his case and the threats she says she's facing now. And here's the question that no one's saying out loud. Did Candace's marriage fall apart because George couldn't handle the danger swirling around her, or because he knew more than he ever let on? Either way, the timing is strange, and it might just reveal that Candace isn't as paranoid as some people think. Before diving into the deeper political side of this story, let's talk about what's really got people stunned. Why George Farmer chose this exact moment to walk away. This isn't just another quiet celebrity split. George isn't your average husband. He's the son of a British baron raised in one of the most elite conservative families and deeply connected to the same world that Candace's entire career is rooted in. From the very beginning, their relationship has always felt strategic. The rushed 17-day engagement, the strange way they described their bond, and that resurfaced clip where George said Candace had a kind of power he couldn't explain, all of it now feels different. He once said they never really dated or shared a typical romance, that it was more like they were partners in a mission than a marriage. Fans online have even called it recruitment energy, and honestly, it fits. The whole thing sounds less like a love story and more like a political partnership. And let's be real, when a relationship starts with that kind of setup, it's almost impossible to survive a media firestorm like this. So when reports leaked that George had filed for divorce, people started putting the pieces together. If he truly believed Candace was in danger or that she was spiraling, wouldn't he stay by her side to protect her? Instead, he's gone silent, packing his bags, stepping back, and letting his circle distance itself from the chaos. That's not fear, that's self-preservation. Because let's face it, the second Candace started publicly naming governments and major intelligence agencies, everyone in that world started panicking. These aren't small claims, these are the kind of allegations that make global headlines.
We met, we shook hands, and I just knew. When I met her, I was like, this is a woman who, she just commanded a power. Nothing romantic was said, you know, between that day and the day that we got engaged, nothing romantic was said at all. You know, there was no.
And George's entire background is built on political alliances and careful connections. He knows which boundaries can't be crossed, and Candace has been crossing them one after another. Now, according to insiders, the divorce filings don't list anything about safety, cheating, or money problems, which is strange in itself, but people in DC circles and the same ones who used to cheer for Candace have been quietly saying that George's team grew uncomfortable with her for months. This didn't start with the recent controversy. It's been brewing for a long time. Long before the assassination talk, before the supposed leaked text, before she started calling out international figures, things between them were already breaking down. People close to them even hinted that Candace stopped taking George's advice entirely. She started moving on her own, making big decisions without him, and keeping him out of certain information for his protection. So when George filed those papers, right when she's surrounded by political enemies and public criticism, it's hard not to wonder if he's protecting himself before her situation gets any darker. But there's something even bigger happening behind the scenes. As their marriage falls apart, the conservative world that once crowned Candace its star seems to be quietly backing away. And if you've been paying attention, the signs were there long before the divorce. Candace was once the powerhouse, the outspoken voice everyone turned to when others stayed silent. But in the past few years, that spotlight has dimmed. Invitations stopped coming, major figures stopped reposting her, big donors quietly stopped putting her name on their lists. Even her longtime ally Charlie Kirk seems seemed to keep a calculated distance. Not an open feud, but a visible divide that no one could ignore. They were definitely not aligned anymore. That much was clear. Even when Charlie Kirk passed, people noticed how carefully Candace spoke about him, almost like she was biting her tongue and keeping something to herself. Then came that alleged whistleblower email, and suddenly her quiet distance started to make sense. But the unease didn't end there.
Judaism is a faith. Israel is a state, and it is not above critique, and that what Bibi Netanyahu has done to the Palestinians since October 7th is a Holocaust.
At that Turning Point USA event where Pastor John called her evil, the entire room fell silent. Nobody stepped in. Not one person defended her, not even the organization's leadership. That silence hit differently, almost like everyone was waiting for someone else to say what they were already thinking. And once that clip started spreading online, a whole new wave of creators began painting her as unpredictable, reckless, and dangerous to the movement. People who once praised her every word suddenly acted like they barely knew her. That's exactly how political machines isolate someone before cutting them off completely. Quiet distancing, subtle discrediting, and eventually total erasure. But then things escalated again. Candace mentioned a journalist named Xavier Sard, claiming his safety was also at risk because of the same powerful forces allegedly targeting her. After that, Xavier's name practically vanished. Posts and videos about him started getting buried, and even the algorithms seemed to shift like someone wanted that story gone. And when you've got politicians, church leaders, donors, and media figures all pulling away at the exact same time, that's not coincidence. That's strategy, coordination, and Candace seems to know it. Which is why, instead of backing down, she's been fighting louder, with more intensity, and clearly with nothing left to lose. But now we move into the part that truly shook her entire career, because while her former allies were freezing her out, Candace began doubling down on her most controversial views yet. Before the claims, before the divorce drama, before the talk of danger, Candace made a statement that divided even her most loyal followers. In one of her recent broadcasts, she said, "Judaism is a faith, Israel is a state, and what Netanyahu has done since October 7th is a Holocaust." That single statement changed everything. In conservative spaces, Israel is the one subject everyone treats like a minefield. One wrong word and it's over. The reaction was instant. Within hours of that clip spreading, outrage exploded across social media. The same people who once defended her turned cold. The same platforms that once promoted her content started slowing her reach. And that's when the shift became undeniable. Candace Owens had officially crossed a line her own movement wasn't ready to forgive. That's when the storm really hit. Major creators started turning on Candace, calling her anti-Israel, reckless, and even dangerous. Some accused her of spreading narratives that could threaten national security. And those are not words people use lightly. Those labels are meant to isolate, to justify pushing someone completely out of the conversation. And judging by how fast the backlash spread, Candace was already walking on thin ice. Then came the post that shifted everything. The one where she said that if anything ever happened to her, certain powerful groups would be responsible. That's when the tone changed completely. Criticizing policies or governments happens every day, but tying that criticism directly to threats against her own safety, that was the point of no return. From that moment on, Candace stopped being just a controversial influencer. She became a liability. Someone unpredictable, someone who might ask the wrong questions or reveal connections that others wanted buried. And after that post went public, every alliance she'd ever built began cracking fast. But here's where the situation turns even darker. The most intense part of this entire story is how Candace tied everything back to Charlie Kirk's passing. When this controversy first erupted, she wasn't just speaking about danger, she was connecting multiple events, multiple agencies, and multiple countries into one chilling chain of circumstances that all seemed to circle back to Charlie. To Candace, Charlie wasn't just a colleague, he was like family. She used to call him her little brother. And when she read that alleged whistleblower email on camera, her tone wasn't for show. It was heavy, emotional, like she truly believed what she was saying. She talked about the supposed French insider who told her there was a formalized hit order, about claims that the person responsible for Charlie's passing trained with an elite French military brigade, and about how US agencies might have had early warning signs before the incident even happened. She mentioned journalists being told to stay quiet and hinted that she herself had become the next target. And when you put all of that together, the timing, the connections, the sudden fallout, it feels way too tight to brush off as coincidence. And here's the eerie part hardly anyone noticed. The night before Candace posted her public warning about the alleged threat, she liked a post from a conservative commentator who hinted that Charlie had uncovered something he wasn't supposed to find. That single click might have said more than any statement she's made since. People are starting to wonder if Candace is holding on to more information than she's shared publicly, especially since she's claimed she has verified documents she's keeping for her own protection. And every time she says something like that, the entire energy around her changes. The air feels colder, her allies grow quieter, and the online smear campaigns seem to intensify overnight. But here's where things take an unexpected turn. Something subtle but revealing. For years, Candace's tone was predictable. You knew her rhythm, her points, her confidence. Whether you liked her or not, she was consistent. But lately that's shifted. Her tone is slower, her pauses longer, her words more deliberate. She keeps referencing people who've reached out privately in nearly every live stream, hinting there's a bigger picture she won't explain. This isn't her usual political talk. This sounds like someone who feels watched. In one of her recent posts, she even wrote, "I don't know who in the American government can be trusted." That's not something a conservative voice says casually, especially someone who's spent years defending those same institutions. And when you connect that with the alleged Project Veritas leaks, those supposed messages about ruining her reputation, the situation starts to look even darker. After that, Candace began separating faith conservatives from state conservatives, drawing a clear line between the two. And the people who ended up on the wrong side of that line, they know she has a massive platform and a loyal audience, and that scares them. This sudden divide explains the wave of pastors, commentators, and influencers who have been publicly denouncing her. It's not just disagreement, it's a calculated move. They're distancing themselves before her story pulls them in. And George, he doesn't want any of that smoke either. But here's the part that really got people talking. The signs that Candace may have already been warned privately. Behind closed doors, conservative circles are like leaky pipes. Everyone talks, everyone protects their own image. And when Candace posted her claims about the Macrons, something strange happened. People who once defended her suddenly went quiet, whispering instead of posting. And these weren't random fans. These were insiders tied to donors, think tanks, and political strategists. The kind of people who can read between the lines and know when someone's stepping on dangerous ground. According to multiple sources, 3 major warnings were passed to Candace, and one message was clear: stop now. Those sources claim she was quietly approached and urged to tone things down, not after her assassination claims, but before them, which means people inside the same system she once supported may have known this storm was coming long before it ever went public. According to several insiders, George couldn't handle the chaos anymore. They allegedly said the tension in their marriage wasn't about love or emotion. It was strategy. George didn't want to be tied to any claims involving global leaders or intelligence agencies. And here's another big one. Multiple sources say Candace hasn't revealed everything she knows. Apparently, she's sitting on even more information, and that alone suggests she's genuinely scared. When you mix that with religious leaders calling her demonic, government figures denying every connection, and social media flooding with attacks, the picture becomes clear. She's being boxed into a corner. But this story takes a final sharp turn because the divorce itself isn't the scandal. The timing is, George didn't leave when Candace was sued by major outlets. He didn't leave when she feuded with other commentators. He didn't even leave when she fought with her own circle. He allegedly left the moment she accused global powers of plotting against her. That's not random, that's strategic. So now the question becomes simple. What does George know that made him back away right when she needed him the most? And here's something that hasn't been getting enough attention. Candace has always had access that few commentators ever get. From yet trusting her with sensitive files to politicians confiding in her off the record, she's had eyes and ears in rooms others could only dream of. So if she says a high-level insider approached her, it's believable. If she claims to have seen proof, that's not far-fetched. And if she says agencies knew about the danger surrounding Charlie Kirk, people are starting to wonder if there's more truth in her story than anyone wants to admit. Because when someone with that kind of reach suddenly becomes a problem, the system doesn't argue. It isolates them. And that's exactly what seems to be happening. Her husband stepped back, her allies turned silent, pastors called her out publicly, influencers distanced themselves, and even journalists who once supported her are now pretending they never knew her. When pressure like that starts building from every angle, it means someone's story is hitting nerves in powerful places. At this point, Candace doesn't look like someone just stirring controversy. She looks like someone who might have stumbled onto information she was never meant to find. And if that's true, George walking away may not be about betrayal at all. It might be pure self-preservation. This story is unfolding in real time. Candace Owens is standing alone against a machine that once praised her, facing political backlash, public divorce drama, and claims that world powers want her gone. And even if half of what she's saying turns out to be true, this situation is far more serious than people realize. So what do you think? Is Candace telling the truth, or is she in over her head? Is George protecting himself, or did he abandon her when she needed him most? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, share this video with someone who's been following the chaos, and don't forget to subscribe because this story is only getting started and you won't want to miss what happens next.